When it comes to adaptations of A Christmas Carol, not all adaptations are equal. But that divide isn't always strong. Most, and I say most, of the more straightforward adaptations are good. They have their own little charm, even if they change details or you think someone is miscast. It's when we get to those loosely based adaptations that the divide is stronger. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But it all comes down to how they approach the material. Just because someone seems mean and unfeeling doesn't mean that they fit in with the themes and ideas that Dickens puts forth. It's all about the context, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But first, what I'm going to do is talking about one of those adaptations that works because of this context, and that's 1979's An American Christmas Carol. In this version, it's the Great Depression, and our Scrooge is Henry Winkler as Benedict Slade, a greedy old miser who thinks that he's helping people by being stingy and unfeeling. Spoiler, he isn't helping.
And I'm sure that a holiday gift would not be objected to. Yes, right. I had these printed at my own expense. One for you, and one for you. You're going to learn how the great men of this country, self-made men, did it all on their own. Morgan, Coolidge, Zebulon Pike, climbed that mountain hand over hand, never asked for anything. Thrift, hard work, pay your bills on time, maybe you'll have a mountain of your own someday. Remember, don't rest on your laurels, it breeds decay. Don't dawdle. Bye-bye, thanks for coming.
On Christmas Eve, Slade decides to call in his debts, and he goes around town repossessing items from those who could not pay back their loans. These include a farmer, Matt Reeves, the manager of a local orphanage named Jessup, and a book dealer named Maryville. After they get back to the warehouse with all of these possessions, Thatcher can't take it anymore, and he calls out Slade.
You should at least hear me, sir. These men have nothing left.
Rebellion?
Oh, no. If the quarry were opened up again, sir, everyone would benefit. There'd be more business in the town. There'd be more money to spend. I mean, it would be prosperous for you, Mr. Slade. Your debtors could pay you on time, and then you wouldn't have...
No, go on and say it. I wouldn't have to what? Put a gun to their heads, take their Victrolas and their lovely couches and leave them in empty houses? Oh, you really do hate me, don't you, Thatcher?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. I see it in those eyes every time we go out in the truck, making me out to be some kind of monster for taking what's rightfully mine.
Thatcher is then promptly fired. That night during a power outage, the Christmas Carol-y things start happening. As usual, the visit starts with a visit from an old colleague, which in this case is Jack Latham, who we'll hear about more when we talk about the ghosts of Christmas past. The rest of the ghosts take the form of those who I previously mentioned are the people who Slade took things from earlier in the day. The first ghost is the ghost of Christmas past, of course, which takes the form of Maryville.
The past is always nearby, especially here.
Christmas past takes him back to when he was an orphan in the orphanage for which he took an item from earlier in the movie. He is then kind of adopted, brought in as a ward for Mr. Brewster and his family, where Mr. Brewster teaches him how to kind of make things with wood. The Brewsters run kind of a furniture type of business where they make everything by hand, which is a very slow process, but it's all about the craftsmanship and quality. As Slade grows up, he kind of moves away from that idea and the ideals that Brewster instilled upon him with that type of craftsmanship, and he tries to introduce the idea of an assembly line or things getting made more quickly.
There are millions of people who won't know the difference.
Yes, they will.
Excuse me. They'll just look at the price tag and that's the one that they'll buy.
Oh, I can't accept that, Ben. No, when the day of quality ends in this country, we'll all be in great trouble indeed. Here.
At the same time, at this point in Slade's life, he's fallen in love with Brewster's daughter, Helen, and because he sees things differently, he decides to leave and make his way in the world before they can properly be together. When he comes back, there's a little bit of awkwardness between the two because they've grown so far apart in their ideals and what they want in life. At the same time, the Brewsters are trying to keep up with things in this changing world of how things are made and manufactured, and one of their overworked employees accidentally lights their factory on fire. The factory is then the employee is okay, but the factory is completely destroyed. And when Brewster goes to Latham, the character we met as the Marley ghost earlier on, he tries to get a loan so he can rebuild, but as Slade tells Latham, their insurance policy has lapsed. So Brewster basically cannot get the funds needed, and he cannot rebuild his business. This ultimately leads to Brewster's death and kind of the final split between Slade and Helen. In the present, we get our second ghost who takes the form of Jessup and shows Slade what he is missing out on. Like Scrooge, he lost the love of his life, but instead of Belle, it is Helen, and he kind of sees what's going on with her and the things he could have had if he had only listened. We also, of course, visit Thatcher and his family, and in his family, our Tiny Tim character is his son Jonathan, who, like Tim, will die without proper medical care. But like the Ghost of Christmas Present in A Christmas Carol, he kind of gives insight into this person's life that Slade, like Scrooge, has completely ignored outside of a professional setting. He doesn't actually know what this person is about outside of being an employee. The third ghost takes the form of Matt, who is dressed like he's from the 1970s. This is actually a really nice touch because while the film is set in the 30s, it's filmed in the 70s. So in the film's universe, the 1970s is the future. So that's kind of a fun little nod there. The future itself is very similar to what Scrooge saw in A Christmas Carol, and that Jonathan and Slade both die. Jonathan, like Tiny Tim, is mourned by his family, and members of the community are definitely glad that Slade is dead. All of his items are auctioned off, and they basically decide that, well, we don't really want these, and they have a bonfire where they burn everything.
That's me! What are you doing? What are you, crazy? Shut up! That's me! Shut up! What do you think you people are doing? That's me!
Promises to change and is brought back home. He then returns the repossessed items, gives the Thatcher family a turkey, and promises to help Jonathan get to a hospital in Australia that can help him. When he goes to the orphanage with their piano, the item he repossessed, he sees a boy who reminds him of himself. So he takes the orphan in as his ward, and much like Brewster did for him, offers to teach the boy wood carving and basically give him a skill that he can use to further and better his life. So what makes this version of A Christmas Carol work? Well, as I said, the Christmas Carol and its themes need to work with the setting and characters. Of course, are these smaller ideas, these themes within the book and the numerous adaptations, no matter if it's faithful or loosely adapted, that you should be giving and empathetic to the people around you. Get to know those people, know what's going on in their lives, and help them out if they need it. But there are other aspects that you need to include in order to make a good page-to-screen adaptation, again, whether it's loosely or faithfully adapted. Now, there are some outliers in this case, ones that are really, really good, but maybe do not follow this kind of argument that I'm about to give. Those are like the Flintstones Christmas Carol, and I may be a minority on this, but a Diva's Christmas Carol with Vanessa Williams. All of those work well, or both of those work well as examples, but they're kind of the outliers in this case. I find for most other adaptations, the impact of the Scrooge-like character's redemption has to be more universal. The impact needs to be wider. It needs to provide a commentary on the time in which it is set in order for it to really, really work. Again, not all, but most of these have to have this. Because if they don't, it doesn't really work. I found like Dickens in his original novella was commenting on how people ignored the poor in Victorian London, not just for the people around them, but the overarching population. It's a case study in greed, wealth disparity, and self-imposed ignorance. For An American Christmas Carol, that overarching theme is much of the same, but this time it's not Victorian London, it's the Great Depression, a time when people had nothing and helping people out meant just so much more. It shows that why it's important to be helpful and kind all the time. Sometimes that helpfulness and that kindness is it's needed just a little bit more than it was previously. So that's why I think An American Christmas Carol works. The setting in which they chose to put it makes it a good adaptation. And there's also the fact that Henry Winkler does an amazing job through all of that old age makeup. It often looks like he's kind of melting, which is kind of funny because he definitely does not look like that now when he's, much older than I think Slade is in this movie, but he is fantastic. So there's also that. As always, if you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, why, etc. And if you haven't watched it and are looking for something a little bit different, a little bit that's not your classic Christmas Carol, maybe a little less Victorian, maybe you're tired of hearing about Scrooge and Marley and, want a different take on those characters, I recommend watching An American Christmas Carol. I don't think you'll be disappointed.